I am a member of the Commission on the Social Status of Black Men and Black Boys, which was set up by a Democrat Congresswoman and by Marco Rubio. Trump had 2 appointees. I was one of them. As you know, I've talked about what I call the crisis of the black family, the epidemic of fatherlessness for decades. And yesterday we talked about the Heritage Foundation putting on an event in D.C. about the black family. One of those who wrote a report, research fellow at Heritage, who moderated the event, is Delano Squires. He now joins us. Delano, thank you very much for taking the time. I appreciate it.
Hey, Larry. It's Delano, like Milano cookies, but thank you for having me on.
Delano?
Yes.
Like Milano cookies?
Yes, sir.
Now you made me hungry. Delano, you know, I ran for governor, as you know, in 2021, and I'm on a Zoom call with all of these black pastors. Everything was going okay until I suggested that systemic racism was not even close to the #1 problem facing the black community. The #1 problem, far and away, is what I call the epidemic of fatherlessness. In Delano, they went ballistic, began attacking me, talking about all the instances that they had regarding police officers, this, that, and the other. I said, this is the 800-pound elephant in the room. You aren't even addressing this. If there's something called clergy malpractice, you guys would be on death row. Maybe I shouldn't have said that, but that was the reaction. Talk to us about what's going on with the black family, Delano.
Sure, and the event that I hosted last week was both an assessment of where the black family is today, but in light of the fact that the Moynihan report on the state of the Negro family, as he called it back then, came out 60 years ago.
Yep.
And one of the things that's most obvious is that, Larry, we're facing a poverty paradox, which is to say people will attribute sort of the breakdown of the black family to a lack of resources or economic opportunity. But what you see is that in 1959, the black poverty rate was about 55%. And in the same year, the out-of-wedlock birth rate was about 22%. And what we've seen in subsequent decades is that poverty has plummeted, right, so decreased down to 18% by 2023. But the non-marital birth rate has been at or around 70% in the black community for the better part of about 30 years. So the issue is not poverty. The issue is that there has been a normalization of father optional homes, particularly in the black community. So marriage has become obsolete and fathers have become optional in far too many, particularly in low income black neighborhoods across the country. And you're right, it's an issue that civil rights organizations, racial equity activists, many black pastors just refuse to acknowledge.
I put it this way, the so-called war on poverty, launched in the mid-'60s by Lyndon Johnson, I believe with the best of intentions, has incentivized women to marry the government and incentivized men to abandon their financial and moral responsibility. And very few people want to talk about it. I've had a radio show for some 30 years, and I've tried to get Jesse Jackson on, I tried to get Al Sharpton on, I tried to get Maxine Waters on, they won't come on. But one so-called black leader I was able to get on was Kwesi Mfume, then the president of the NAACP. He was a congressman from Maryland. He's now back in Congress. And I said to him, Mr. Mfume, as between the presence of white racism or the absence of black fathers, which poses a bigger threat to the black community? And to his credit, without missing a beat, he said the absence of black fathers.
Well, good for him. I wonder if he would answer the same way today, because what we've seen, particularly since President Obama left office, is that it is hard to find a national Democrat who will consistently connect marriage and family structure to social outcomes. He was the last person who did it, and he was attacked by the progressive left, particularly black progressive left, including in Ebony magazine, where one radical feminist professor named Brittany Cooper took him to task and said that he was blaming black folks when he talked about the need for stronger families and more marriage and more fathers at home.
I remember when he talked about that if you're 5 times more likely to be poor and commit crime, 9 times more likely to drop out of school, 20 times more likely to end up in jail. And Jesse Jackson said he's talking down to black people. Right.
Yeah, and black leaders have been critical of anyone who raises these issues, even though it's clear that the things that they attribute to racial discrimination are really a function of family inequality. So, for instance, the order from highest to lowest in terms of median household income follows the exact order in terms of highest to lowest in marriage rates among the major ethnic groups. So particularly for Asian Americans, their median household income is about $122,000. for blacks, it's about 56,000. But for black married couples, it's about 111,000. And for black married couples under the age of 65, it's even higher than the median income for Asians. So our leaders, particularly in the black community, have their head in the sand when it comes to these issues. And part of what I want to do with that event is to, as they like to say, raise awareness and raise consciousness of this being the most important problem facing our community today.
Far and away. And Delano, let's talk about the so-called black leaders. Barack Obama's first book, which was a wonderful book, Dreams from My Father, was all about his angst not having his father in his life. Jesse Jackson was raised by a single mom who was impregnated by the man who lived next door. And in a book called Thunder in America, a biography about him, he was taunted growing up in South Carolina because then it was rare for a black kid not to have a mother and a father in the home. He was taunted, Jesse ain't got no daddy, Jesse ain't got no daddy. Al Sharpton had a nice middle-class life until his father ran away with another woman, and then down to the hood he went. And Louis Farrakhan, his mother was estranged from her husband, had a boyfriend, took back up with the husband, got pregnant, and tried to abort Louis Farrakhan with a coat hanger so the boyfriend wouldn't find out. My point is, these are four so-called black leaders, influential, all of whom either had no relationship or a poor relationship with their fathers, yet they don't talk about this as the number one problem facing the black community.
And this failure of leadership, I think, has been going on for decades. So when I write about it, I write about how welfare displaced men from their rightful role as providers in their home, how second-wave feminism deceived women into rejecting marriage and motherhood and being antagonistic towards the home, and how black leaders have denied that this is actually a problem. Right. And they've been doing that for the better part of, I'd say, at least 4 decades. But it's time to spur them to action, and I think more and more people are beginning to wake up to realize that this is a problem. And obviously, Larry, as you know, probably better than anyone, this is not just a problem within the black community. It's most acute in the black community, but 40% of all American children are born to unmarried parents.
That's right.
And about a quarter live with a single parent, which is the highest rate in the world.
Delano, we have 60 seconds. Talk to us about what we do about this.
So what I said at the end of my report, the blueprint for black family revival, we need to make marriage revival and family restoration a priority for black leaders, reframe family strengthening efforts to focus on the rights of children, harness the power of key institutions to create a culture of marriage, that's black churches, HBCUs, media outlets, and federal, state, and local government, and then anticipate resistance from allies. Larry, there are a lot of people who say that they're pro-black and for the cause who are going to resist this effort, including feminists, abortionists, LGBT activists, anti-racist, and functional atheists. So there's a lot of work to be done, but I think that we can turn this around.
Delano, if people want to get involved, is there a website? Is there somewhere they can go?
They can go to heritage.org/black-family-blueprint. So if they just Google heritage.org and Black Family Blueprint, it'll pop right up.
Delano, thank you very much for taking the time. I appreciate it. Stay in touch. Stay in touch.
Will do.